This is Apologetics Live. To answer your questions, your host from Striving for Eternity Ministries, Andrew Rappaport.
We are live, Apologetics Live, here to answer your most challenging questions that you have about God and the Bible. This is a ministry of Striving for Eternity, of which I am the president and executive director. We are also a podcast, which is on the Christian Podcast Community. You can check that out at christianpodcastcommunity.org. What we do here every week is we do apologetics. We teach it, we show it, but we'll also take any questions that you may have as an audience. And if you want to join in the discussion, it's very easy. All you have to do is go to apologeticslive.com Thursday nights, 8:00 New York City time, because New Yorkers think everything revolves around them. But I sure hope none of my guests are from New York. But so if you want to join us, just go to apologeticslive.com. You see it scrolling if you're watching at the bottom there. Click on the little duck icon. It's for StreamYard, and give your browser permission to join. Now, I will admit there are certain browsers that it doesn't like. I don't know why. Like if you're on a Mac, it doesn't like Safari, but it likes Safari on an iPhone. I don't get it. But that aside, I'm already getting the criticism. Ethan is saying that the title, what happens when a bunch of podcasters compete against one another? And he says, your title should say podcasters, not podcaster. Well, Ethan, you know that my grammar is... I took computer programming languages because my English language is bad. Let me bring in my co-host, Mr. Tom Shepard of Open Air Theology. Sir, welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here tonight.
You had a great Open Air Theology this past week on open air evangelism, a topic Absolutely. I love.
Yes, we did. We had Daniel Corney on, and then we also had Ryan Denton. It was a good show. We really had a good time.
You were just trying to get a nice Bible out of it, weren't you?
I have plenty of good, nice Bibles, so we're good with that.
Here, I was thinking, let's just bring Adam in right away. Let me take this banner off so people can see his title there. So, Rockwell Bibles, one of the sponsors of the Dead Man Walking podcast. So, if you want to get a good Bible, you're actually giving the winner a Bible, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And therefore, in your mind, the winner was the Rap Report or Apologetics Live, regardless of what the votes.
Hey, send me a DM, and we could get something set up. I'm sure.
Yeah. So what I want to do on the show tonight, folks, is we want to talk about if you guys were here last week, you knew that there's a competition going on in the with Dead Man Walking podcast, and he should be in later on tonight, where we're getting podcasters to vote. And I asked all of the sponsors of that to come in so that they can introduce their businesses to you guys and some of the podcasts. Well, those that I beat and those that beat me, or let me rephrase that for one, utterly destroyed me. We'll see if he comes in. Oh, how embarrassing. I tried everything. So, Adam, please, if you don't mind, introduce your business to folks. Let folks know what you do and what you're offering to the winner of the contest.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Andrew. I just appreciate you giving us the shout out for sponsoring the podcast bracket. So, I run Rockwall Bibles. So I'm a premium Bible rebinding. I guess I'll call it a company, although at this point it's just me. So what we try to do is make just the coolest Bibles that I can, and really to make them last. So that's the thing. A lot of people's Bibles will wear out, which is a great thing that they're using it, but people want to be able to pass their Bible on to their kids and their grandkids. And so I'm using really high quality materials to try to make Bibles that last a long time.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And basically what it is, folks, if you don't have like a really nice premium Bible, what it is, it's something that you just, when you see someone else that has one, you're like, ooh, I want one. When you have
That's
one,
right.
you want to, I mean, look, the first nice Bible that I got, because I was like, yeah, I can't see spending over like, $25 for a Bible. And then I was at a conference and I picked up this really soft goatskin Bible. And I'm like, I wasn't even looking to buy a Bible. My friend was for his wife. And I just held it. I'm like, oh, I want to preach with this.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I ended up buying it, and that started a frenzy. I ended up getting, I think I bought 3 from Jeffrey Rice. So I have 3 of his.
He's the best. Yep. Yeah.
Technically I bought more than 3 because I bought my son or son-in-law a Jeffrey Rice New English translation, and his identical twin brother liked it so much that for my son-in-law's brother's wedding present, I got him the same one.
Oh,
and
nice.
So,
yep.
Yeah, they were very happy. I would have gotten one for myself, but I've realized I'm too old. I can't read the notes on the NET Bible anymore.
Right.
Let me bring in, next I'm going to bring in Joshua from Dominion Wealth Strategies. If you don't mind introducing yourself and your business a bit.
Yeah, so my name's Josiah with Dominion Wealth Strategists. No worries. I'm the founder of Dominion Wealth Strategists, the only distinctly reformed financial consulting firm in the world. We do all of our work online. We help Calvinistic covenantal confessional congregants take dominion over their finances. We help with budgeting, debt management, savings accounts, life insurance, retirement planning, estate planning, business coaching, kind of the whole 9 yards as a one-stop shop for all things financial for the entire church. And then we try to do as much of it as for free. The only thing that we're charging for right now is estate planning because the software we use is really expensive, and business coaching, just because there's no way for us to ever have a commissionable product involved with me telling you not to open up an LLC as soon as you have a business idea. Right? So there's a lot involved in those 2 practices, but essentially, we also have a health insurance guy, a tax planning guy, and a wealth management guy as formal referrals. So we're kind of able to take care of everything financial all under one roof, or at least all under one banner. And to do so according to biblical principles. So I'm a Reconstructionist, so presuppositionalism. We might have some chats about that. But the Reconstructionists did a ton of work in this regard, actually applying biblical principles to modern finance. So I take their gleanings, polish them up a bit, apply them a little bit better, I hope, and then just help people. All right, well, okay, what does the parable of the talents actually mean for us today when we're in a non-agrarian, non-gold standard society? When we're in a digital banking fiat currency society, how do we work with inflation? Because if you buried your cash, you're actually more unfaithful. You're losing 3 to 9% per year. So there's a lot of work involved. But again, if you're Calvinistic covenantal confessional and you like to sit down for a meeting with us, we always give away our time for free. So you're happy to set a meeting, happy to help you as best we can. And if there's a commissionable product involved, yay, I get paid. And if not, no worries. We'll move on to the next guy.
Now does Bitcoin is that incled in the Reconstructionism scheme?
One of the questions I was going to ask.
Yeah, so I do happen to agree with Gary North on Bitcoin. It's a neat thing, but it's a pure speculative asset class, and it's not tied into anything that God has called valuable. So if we're going to use it as a medium of exchange, we need something tied into gold, precious metals, commodities like sheep, livestock, housing, but something that's actually meaningful that God has called valuable, I think needs to be the base of our currency, not just, it's non-fungible and you can trade it and you can track it like that. That's neat. But it also increases in about 150% year over year on average, which makes it a terrible currency because that disincentivizes actually using it. So I've got some strong feelings on Bitcoin, but there's a time and a place for it in someone's portfolio.
Okay. So then I'm curious based on that. So do you deal with American dollars?
Yeah, plenty.
And what's that based in?
Oh, that's based on the mind of the U.S. military. Right?
That's a U.S. military. That's on the president's ability to print more.
Yeah. So again, we're not wanting to trade a currency that's floating on nothing for a different currency that's floating on neat digital back-end stuff. Right.
Well, okay. So, and this is where we could have fun discussion, but. So Bitcoin is based on something. It's the work of doing of keeping the ledger.
Right.
But that's different. And this is what I do see. I would agree with you when it comes to other digital coins.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin is different because it's public access. And so I see a difference there, because what you see with the, all these other coins, there's I don't know the girl's name, but they call her the Haktua girl.
Meme coin stuff.
She created
meme coins.
Someone working with her created a coin, and she's from what I've gathered and heard about her, she's clearly not the smartest person in the room.
No, but she does know her way around pump and dumps.
Well, I just figured she like even if she's the only person in the room, she's not the smartest. I mean, okay, maybe if AOC was with her, I mean, but so she, I guess, had someone create a coin under her name, and they, it sold real big, and then, because it's not, it's controlled by whoever runs the ledger,
right?
They then sold everything and she's the one that's in trouble for it.
Yeah. You put out an initial valuation, sell coins. Now you artificially inflate the value of your own holdings, and then you sell, and it's just a quick bump and dump. Any pure speculative asset class, it's generally unwise to put any eggs in that basket that you're not okay becoming scrambled. So maybe 10% of your asset portfolio should be in something that's pure speculation like Bitcoin. But that's on the high end. And I know some people have like 30 or 40% of their entire portfolio in crypto. I'm like, good luck, sir. I think you're being a little bit riskier than God would suggest in his word with how you're holding your assets, because it's not necessarily floating on nothing, but it's close. And with a lot of things that aren't directly Bitcoin, shout out to thank God for Bitcoin. Jordan's pretty solid on this. But something like Ethereum or any of those sort of derivative coins, you're going to have a bad time. You're just gambling essentially under the guise of investment. Right. In fact, because I work in what they call the legacy financial sphere in this book, I can tell you that we legally can't even call cryptocurrency investment. You're not investing in cryptocurrency. You can buy cryptocurrency, but it's legally not an investment because of how it's traded, because of how it's valued. It's a pure speculative asset class, but we legally can't call it an investment.
Interesting. So obviously you have more people in your company than Adam there.
A few.
Mentioning all this, but so I am curious, when you say you're distinctively reformed and the only one in the world, which I mean, I'll contest that, if you have to then know every financial business in the world to make that claim, but
they probably would have also shown up to all the reform conferences, and we're the only one there that's distinctly reformed. So how do you do your business that you would say you're distinctively reformed opposed to other, financial planners that would be Christian? Yeah. There's certainly other companies out there that have Reformed Christians in them. In fact, there's a couple that, like under the auspices of Northwestern Mutual, there's Backwards Financial Planning. He can only offer Northwestern Mutual products, which kind of truncates his ability to really provide the best that's out there in the market. What sets us apart is generally, well, I suppose we can do financial planning the way that the traditional financial system works, which is typically trying to maximize your net worth by 65 so that you can pull 4 to 8% of your portfolio year over year until you run out of money by the time you're 86, 87. And hopefully you die by then. Otherwise, you're going to be living with your kids. So that's the general financial system.
You say that like that's a problem. I mean, don't you want to get your kids back?
Retiring at all is a problem, but I digress. All right. So what we tend to do is
I've changed their diapers for years. It's time for them. There's a point where they got to start changing mine.
Yeah, start changing yours. Right. Yeah. The proper retirement plan is just you have enough kids that one of them becomes financially successful enough for you to be a burden on for the rest of their life.
Amen.
I'd like you to be financially independent so that you don't have to do that. But ideally, we're trying to maximize people's.
I used to tell my daughter that she was my retirement plan. And she goes, well, Dad, if that's going to be the case, then I want to know how you're spending your money right now. I want to know how you spend your money.
Right. But that's generally the way to do it. So just trying to do kind of a really full-orbed financial planning where we're not just helping out with your budget and saying, good luck with everything else. We're not just helping out with debt management and like, all right, good luck with everything else. And trying to do it all in one are all under one roof, because a lot of these planning elements are recursive in nature, where if you tweak something over here later because of something that happened earlier, now both of them have to change. So it's good to have someone who knows enough about all the industry, sort of a jack of all trades here, and with access to specialists so that we can have these conversations and be like, hey, we need to do this with their debt management. Should we target by interest rate, balance, or minimum payment? Well, in this particular case, we should actually target these two by minimum payment until they get to this amount in their savings account based on 2/3 of their discretionary income over here. Oh, and they need life insurance, which means their discretionary income is going to be less after you take care of it over there. So there again, there's a lot of recursive planning here, and more full orb than I'd say basically any other financial planning office that I've talked to does, with the exception of fractional family offices, where you have basically like 5 or 6 professionals working for one family. So we do all of that, but in a fractional sense, helping out everybody. But what makes us distinctly reformed is the fact that we're all Calvinistic covenantal confessional Christians. There is no non-reformed person here, but I can't really like point to Calvin's institutes and be like, and this is where Calvin says that what you're doing is usury. Therefore, we need to do something different. We just try to take biblical principles and not modern Keynesian economics and then like sprinkle some Bible verses on top like Dave Ramsey does, but make a positive argument for whatever financial planning that we're recommending. Like, hey, you should do this because look to the ant, you sluggard, you need a savings account. It should probably be a high yield savings so that you're not actively losing value, because your money is supposed to be a store of value. And if you're not earning 4 to 9% per year, you're actually losing value. Therefore, let's stick this in a high yield savings or a bond portfolio. And maybe you have feelings about bonds because you're being paid with taxes, and that's kind of theft, right? So we want to take into account their moral considerations. Hey, maybe you don't want to touch BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. We'll try to avoid this, try to do that, try to make sure that we're just aligned with their goals, their moral considerations, and that we have, again, a positive biblical argument for what we're doing, as opposed to just, well, this seems to be conventional wisdom. So we're until the Bible says otherwise, I'm just going to do this and see if God's okay with blessing it.
Andrew, can I ask a question before you bring in our other guest?
Yeah, well, you just did. Would you like to ask another?
Let's go ahead and bring in the other guest.
No, go ahead.
I want to go back with Josiah though. I have a question regarding something.
Sure thing.
We could keep the special guest waiting because he's the best. So
okay, well then I'm going to ask it.
Yeah, I guess he's one I know the best too. But
yeah. So how does being confessional Calvinistic in terms of investing, how does that doctrine play a part in our investing? How does that distinctive, being that God is sovereign over all things,
right?
How shall we invest?
What's market risk to a Calvinist?
Right.
We serve a God who brings the increase. Now, technically, I'm not securities licensed, and that's a legally separate entity that we refer people to called Dominion Financial Planning for compliance purposes. I don't want the SEC breathing down my neck on my life insurance business. When we're talking about,
would never do that.
No. So I'm going to talk very colloquially, very generally, things that may be generally good advice. But
terrible. We're going to go. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's biblical precedent for taking risk, but then the Koheleth I know Koheleth, but I don't know the Bible verse. In Ecclesiastes says essentially invest in 7 ventures, no 8. Send your grain across the sea, for you do not know what calamity may befall the earth. So there's King Solomon, wisest man on the planet, saying you should diversify your portfolio. You should have multiple business ventures going at the same time, because you don't know what might happen here, what might happen there. Maybe the trade disagreements in Syria are going to really mess up your cedar investment. So you're going to need to have some solid diversification. But we do tend to err a little bit more on the aggressive side of things, because we do serve a God who brings the increase. Right? We don't have to be conservative and wondering, should I have a portfolio that maybe might make 4 to 6% interest? Like, no, you should be aiming at like 10 to 15. And when I say should, again, colloquially, all that good stuff, disclaimers here and there. And if you have a sophisticated investor, someone with $200,000 or more worth of investable assets, I might do some private placement with like David Rees. right? Because why not? He's doing what, like 20 to 34% rates of return year over year by just investing in businesses and creating legitimate value. It's not speculation. It's just he owns the thing and it's doing better because of his work. So if we can, we'll do that. But there's a lot of rules and regulations about private placement and working with a private company and things of that nature. But we have been netting 10 to 15% returns year over the past 5 years or so. Just kind of depends on the portfolio and someone's risk tolerance and their time horizon and their moral considerations. If we're looking for pure growth and nothing but growth, you might have to make some compromises and invest a little bit of your money with like Disney. Right. But if we have enough money in assets under management, we could just buy Disney.
I am all for Christians taking over Disney. So
right, yeah. If we have a controlling interest, we just vote a new board in and say, "Hey, stop making crap content. Let's make some good stuff again." Right, as long as we have that money to swing around, and you have someone who's actively managing it, who is actively trying to swing it around, we could make some big waves. It's just going to take time because that's for a controlling stake in Disney. We're talking like millions and millions of dollars,
right?
Not just one or two companies' 401 programs, but like an entire sector, their entire 401 program. So we'll see what we can do, but there's good that we can do in the world through investing. And again, we just serve a God that brings the increase. So if we need to be a little bit riskier, it's going to be up to God. The die is cast, but the Lord is.
We're going to get to that verse.
God is faithful, though.
Yeah. So let me bring in the last person that's backstage for now. Other folks are going to be coming later. I said this is my favorite of the sponsors. And it might just be because out of all the sponsors here, it's the only one that sponsors this show, Squirrely Joe's Coffee. As we say here, if you look, there's other coffees that you can get that are fine. They want to support. Maybe they say they're not woke. They're gonna, give their money for. Second Amendment things, that's all fine and dandy, but it's better to support a fellow Christian than some guy that's going to just help you have a gun in your hand, right? Because the gun is only going to last you for, a couple decades. Well, actually, no, the government, once Trump is out and we get someone like Biden back in, then forget it. They're coming for your guns. So, but your coffee, now that can last a lot longer because you're helping a family that is going to be with you in heaven. So Squirrely Joe's Coffee, you can get a good cup of coffee. Just go to strivingforeternity.org/coffee. And we welcome Mr. Squirrely Joe himself.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I am so bummed because I'm going to a conference and you tried to get a hold of the person. I am going to reprimand him for not calling you. And you should have contacted me to make sure that there was coffee at the conference, but let folks know. I mean, anyone who's a regular here, about Squirrely Joe's Coffee. You have ordered it by now. You've been on my Rap Report podcast where we got into, and that I do encourage folks, even if you're, if you just drink coffee just to kind of keep yourself awake, and you don't care the flavor, go check out when Squirrely Joe was on my Rap Report, because it was actually a really cool lesson on how the whole process is of making coffee. I was really learned a lot from it. So let folks know about your company and and actually I meant to ask Josiah what he's giving away. We'll come back to that. So what are you giving away to a winner here at the contest?
So we've got a coffee package. Whoever the winner is going to get a bunch of coffee. So pretty simple. We'll throw a mug in there too. And if anybody's on X, they probably saw some of the giveaways that we did with your books, and then we did one with the founders as well. So yeah, I mean, we're a small specialty coffee roaster in Southern Illinois. We do 99% e-commerce. So we're just roasting, packaging, and shipping all over the U.S. I'm really excited for this opportunity because to talk to your listeners, because they have been so generous with us over the past 8-9 months that we've been working together. So I just want to say thank you to everybody listening. We really appreciate the amount of support that we've gotten from your listeners specifically.
Well,
So,
and there you see that, Tom, you can put that one back up. Tom just put up a comment from Johnny Hernandez there. He said, I just placed a coffee order yesterday. Can't wait to get it. So there you go.
I just put his coffee in a box tonight, and it's going in the mail tomorrow.
There you go. How's that for? That's better than tracking through email. You get it right from the owner's mouth.
And really, your job in your company is the most important here. I mean, because without coffee, we cannot do any investments with Dominion, and we can't make Bibles with Adam. I mean, we need to have this coffee to be able to function.
Well, Tom. Listen, there is something that works better than coffee to keep you awake, but you decided to go to California to avoid it.
Oh, I am not doing a plunge.
And that is a cold plunge.
No.
That will keep you wide awake for hours longer than a cup of coffee, sir. So for Adam, Josiah, and Joe, I'm going to the conference this weekend in Oklahoma, Bartsville, Oklahoma. If anyone wants to join us, if you're listening live, just go to calebgordon.org. And he does have 2 free tickets that for anybody. So if you want those tickets and they're not taken, you can just email me, info@strivingforeternity.com, info@strivingforeternity.com, and I will see if those tickets are available. But you can go to calebgordon.org to get tickets. And basically, Caleb said, with me coming down, he knows I do the cold plunging, and he said, he basically said, "Hey, you're going to try and find a place to cold plunge." I said, "Yeah, I'll find a place." He goes, "Well, you find a place, I'll cold plunge with you. I'll do it." I said, "Okay." Well, he thought that, he could just call my bluff. And I shipped him a cold plunge.
Oh, there you go.
He did a video saying, "Don't call Andrew Rappaport's bluff." I shipped one down. He set it up. He's been in it already. He's trying to prepare. I told him 3 minutes. He's got to do. He's just trying to get in for a minute. I do 5 minutes a day. And, I drink the coffee because I love it, not because I need it. Because after a cold plunge, I'm telling you, you'll be wide awake, Tom.
I'll stick with coffee.
Yeah. Temperature's nice, but caffeine and nicotine are like way better.
There you go. Fantastic. My kind of guy right there.
So, Joe, what got you into starting the company?
So we've been drinking specialty coffee for probably since 2011, something like that, and then COVID hit, and so we owned a CrossFit gym at the time.
What's that? I never heard of that before.
Something in 2020 that kind of impacted the entire world.
It's just the common flu, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Actually, not the entire world. There was a couple countries that just said, "Yeah, we're going to ignore your craziness," and they were over it like a common cold.
Yeah, so 2020, we had to shut the gym down for a couple months, and so it was just kind of a hobby thing that we got into. A buddy of mine showed me how to roast coffee in a popcorn popper, and then we bought a little stovetop thing, and then we bought a little, home roaster. And it was just kind of a goofy thing that we were doing just for ourselves and friends, family. Then we sold a couple bags here and there just to kind of recoup some of our costs. And then, 5 years later, here we are shipping, hundreds of packages a week. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Praise God for that.
Yeah.
Yes. So we got someone, Sister Tara is asking the question, where are you in Illinois? She lives in Illinois. I guess she wants to know if she can come pick up some coffee, maybe.
So we're in Olney, Illinois. So southeastern, about 40 minutes from the Indiana border.
Or maybe she wants to come over and start packaging for. Maybe you can get a volunteer out of this. Hey,
we'll trade for some coffee.
You do espresso as well?
So we don't have an espresso roast. We do have several roasts that work really well as an espresso. So some of the coffee shops we supply, if you look on our website, our Honor and our Respect are probably the 2 most popular that work really well as an espresso.
Okay, so right there, folks that are regular listeners, you have no problem knowing what he just said. But he refers to the coffee by names. So honor, compassion, integrity, right? Those have become kind of a fun thing that it has taken on a life of its own, hasn't it? Especially at conferences.
Oh yeah, especially among the speakers for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So each of the coffees have a name. There's only Joe knows this is coming because I bust on him all the time for this. There's one name that I think is just wrongly named. It just is.
Dispensationalist.
It's called honesty. It's see the honesty is the decaf.
Ooh.
And maybe it's that the decaf needs to be more honest and learn to get caffeine, or
That's the truest expression of coffee because you're just drinking it for the taste.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
we might call it the apostasy coffee.
Surprisingly, we do sell quite a bit of decaf. There's a lot of decaf drinkers out there.
Yeah.
All right.
So the joke as a speaker when I go to a conference, when there's conferences, you send coffee and each of the speakers gets to take a bag home. And so there's one of each. There's the compassion, there's wisdom, there's honor, integrity, kindness, respect. The responsibility is half decaf, half caffeinated, and then honesty is decaf. But usually the speakers have all these bags that are sitting there for display through the conference. And at the end of the conference, and like every conference that I've been at where Squirrely Joe's Coffee's been there, there becomes the discussion of if someone picks up like integrity, for example, the question is, are you needing integrity? Or are you saying you already have integrity? And so it becomes a thing where everyone's kind of nervous of which bag they want to pick up, I just know I'll just pick up the compassion because if you say I have none, yeah, I'll agree. But I could do that with the wisdom too. So yeah.
Truly, that's your responsibility.
Yeah. But that's half caffeinated. So yeah. Or I could just take the respect out of someone's hand if they have it. Because I don't need it more than them, but disrespecting them.
There's wisdom in that.
Yeah.
Now, Adam, do you have like a special line of Bibles? Like, do you have call one? I think Jeffrey Rice has like an Isaiah line or where it's something like that. Do you have anything like that with your Bibles?
No, I don't have anything like that right now. Although, generally when I post them, I name each Bible just based on a Bible passage or something. But yeah, he has the Isaiah line, which is kind of a little bit of a rougher, like a little bit cheaper rebind that he does to kind of keep costs down, which is cool. I've thought about, maybe doing, if I could figure out a way to do like a kid's Bible, like a kid's premium Bible that you give a kid maybe for their like 10th birthday or something. I'm still toying with the idea and practicing. So
now, is it worth getting an Allen Bible and a Scholar Bible actually rebound, or would you just leave it?
I mean, it's personal preference, but I'll say, they use really high quality materials, but I think the materials that kind of the top rebinders use are probably better. So in some degree, it just depends on what you like. So
I think that's a brilliant idea. Like I could see, for a teenager, give them a Bible that, hey, this is a premium Bible that you're now going to carry for life. Because when you get, I got saved. I was 16 years old. For some of you guys that don't know my background, I got saved out of Judaism, and so I knew nothing of Christianity. And so my first Bible was actually was one stolen from the hotel, a Gideon Bible that the guy who led me to Christ gave me. He took it out of the hotel. That was my first Bible. But then when I got a Bible, I got a New King James Bible and has all my notes. It's fallen apart. So yeah. Hey, so we've been talking about the contest or brackets with the Dead Man Walking. So why don't we bring in Mr. Dead Man Walking himself, Greg Moore?
Oh, hey.
So, Greg, we're bringing folks in. We got all these are all the sponsors of your brackets. Maybe you could explain why you started it. Because part of what we want to get to when some of the podcasters hopefully come in is, hey, and because I actually got this earlier today that someone criticized me for encourage people to vote for different people in the bracket. And someone was criticizing, basically saying it's unchristian to be competing like this. So I was like, well, I said, maybe you tune in tonight. So if he's listening, because that's what we want to talk about. Like, is it really unchristian to be competing, or are we having some fun?
My only question would be, were those people King James only? Because that sounds like King James only to me. Was that your King James only fans?
So Greg, why did you start this? You started it several years ago, and it's kind of doubled every year. You're really in trouble next year because you're gonna have to do 256.
No, 128 was more than enough this year. Really started it the very first year. It was very low key, and I just did it with podcasts who had been on my podcast. Best Reformed podcast that you liked that had been on my podcast. It was only 16, and it went rather quickly. And I think James White won that one. And then we opened it. Then we opened it to 32, and then last year 64, and this year I was going to do 64. And 2 days before, people were going, "Why isn't this person in? Why isn't that person in?" And very quickly got it to 128, and probably could have kept going. I have probably 15 or 20 direct messages that said, "Hey, I want to be included next year." So, it grew quickly. But the whole point was to really just get exposure to some podcasts that maybe you hadn't heard of that are that are producing content. Obviously, like Striving for Eternity, really not included in that. A lot of people know Striving for Eternity. A lot of people know Open Air Theology. But there were some that had just started. There's some that are maybe only getting a couple hundred downloads a month. And people, I probably got 100+ messages of people saying, "I never heard of these. I'm going to listen to them." I had a couple guys say, "Hey, my listenership went up a little bit just from this bracket because they found me on that." That's really why I started it. And I realized very quickly that us Reformed folk, we like three things, really. We like ranking things. We like coffee, and we like our cigars and our tobacco. So, and the occasional bourbon and scotch. So, bringing those sponsors on too, and we love Rebound Bibles as well, right? We love Rockwell Bibles.
And beer.
And
is that the winner's Bible that you have in your hand there?
It is right here. It's Rockwell Bible. It's an ESV Creeds and Confession. It's gray cowhide. It's got the yap on it. I mean, stamped. It is gorgeous and ready to go. And someone's going to win that tomorrow. Well, actually Saturday morning. And then the other thing I realized that Reformed folk like is they love building things, businesses and things like that. So shout out to Dominion Wealth Strategists. If you guys need to find a place to help grow your money, figure out how to be better with it, how to build things, businesses, and how to start them, you got to go talk to your man Josiah over there at Dominion Wealth Strategists. They are just phenomenal. And then, of course, where to go? Oh, here it is. Here's my favorite one. You got to get some squirrel. I just had some Squirrely Joe coffee just an hour ago. That's why I'm talking so fast right now, man. I'm having I'll be up till 3 a.m., brothers. So we can go all night.
Right there.
Yeah.
And you also have what's the cigar company that's supplying?
Oh, Patriot. Patriot Cigars. Awesome, bros. Send us some. I got some of those right here too. I'm waiting to smoke this one until after I'm done posting. This is supposed to be a good one here. Wow.
So I love the fact, if folks haven't gone to the YouTube channel for Dead Man Walking, go check that out, because what Greg's been doing is interviewing in each round, a couple rounds of the bracket. He has all the sponsors come in, and I got to admit, when he's and I forget his name, who's with the cigar, does the cigars.
Terry.
Oh, I was thinking 1689.
That's a 1689. Yeah. Terry Mann and Ethan from Patriot Cigars.
It is the funniest thing, because here's everyone talking, and about their businesses, about the brackets, and here's Terry like just cutting down trees in his cabin of his
he's in the cab of a front loader taking a StreamYard call so he could be on it. I was like, if there isn't anything more manly than that. I do have to give a shout out to Andrew Rappaport though, because one, your retweeting and the way you advertise this, man, I'm convinced that you're a big part of the reason why we got to over 1 million views this year. You also set the record for carrying 3 separate podcasts that you're on through to the second round. Okay. Getting 1 through is hard. Getting 2 is just about impossible. Getting 3 through to multiple rounds, man. Congratulations. That just shows me you're a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. you called it in the fact that I had 3 in round 2, and you said it's probably going to water down because people are going to vote for one over the other. And
exactly.
So, yeah, none of them made it through the second round. But the worst was being just totally and utterly like, okay, so has there been any larger gap than my rap report versus your Calvinist? I mean,
let's see.
Instruction.
Let's go to the paperwork.
Yeah, Keith beat Hearts of the Lost pretty bad the first round.
That one was tough. That was 95-5 on that one.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
That was the rap report going up against your Calvinist in the second round.
It was 95-5. I thought he was like 86. I thought I at least got 14%.
Oh, you're right. It was 88%. 88%. You got 12%
Thank you.
of that one. Yeah. 95 was what he won with the previous round up against Hearts for the Loss. Shout out to Hearts for the Loss. We like them, but no match for Keith. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
That was tough.
Well, and at this point, I'm hoping no one is a match for Keith.
So I got a question though. When did you start, allowing women podcasts to come in? Was it this year, or did you do that last year as well? Because they whooped us, and I'm not really happy about it.
If you didn't see last week's episode of Apologetics Live, it was one of the things that we were joking, because even though some others lost in the first round, Parker Brown, he at least didn't lose to some women.
Right. I think this year was the first year. I think we might have had one in, maybe Sheologians last year, but this year we had a word fitly spoken. We had Sheologians. We had Presby girls.
Well, Sheologians was in last year for sure.
Yeah. So we had quite a few more, and they made it a little farther. But this is probably, like I said, guys like to rank things, so it's a more male dominated space. But the feedback I'm getting, and same thing Andrew told me last year, and then I kind of ignored him, but probably should have listened. Well, I didn't ignore him, but I just didn't figure out how to do it. But me and Andrew, we're gonna have to work on this again. So I've had many more people, and Andrew brought it up last year. Maybe we should make it to where it's like within viewership, inside of brackets, kind of going. So that way, a guy who just started 6 months ago isn't going up against a Keith Foskey who has a following. And I have to say, for everyone listening too, the bracket really isn't reflective of how popular the podcast is or how much it's loved as well, because really, if you have a larger following on X, you're going to do well there, because the followers on X are voting on X. If you have a large following on YouTube or live stream or, Instagram, that's like Christ is the Cure. I mean, they got a couple million people over on Instagram. They've got, 200 on X. They couldn't go anywhere in the bracket. And he said, man, I wish this was on Instagram, so for all those who didn't make it to the finals, it's not a personal judgment, I don't think, on your popularity or quality of your podcast. It's just, hey, I hold it on X. And
it's a thing where, like my follow, a lot of my following is more on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, most of your following is in bed by 6 o'clock in the nursing home, isn't it?
Hey, no, Joe Biden actually blocked me when he was president. That's got to count for something. That's awesome. That both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris blocked me on X.
Yeah, because they know you used to work for national security, and you can probably look up their secrets.
Oh, there's some things I know. No, so the having it on X, it does help having the following there. I have a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm not on X, so they can't vote. I was thinking of mentioning to you what we, with the women's podcast, of even having, a women's bracket might be fun.
I was just going to throw a little separate Tupperware party for them. They can.
There you go.
There should have been a Tupperware prize. Just
why the men vote.
I mean, you wouldn't want them winning the cigars. I would hope not.
Any woman who wants to start her own business should talk to us first.
Yeah. Well, okay. So,
do they all get the same advice?
Stop.
Don't do it.
No.
So
that's the advice. Stop. No.
Greg does a contest, one of these contests in the past, and it was with 1689 cigars. So whoever wins cigars. So who wins it? Keith Foskey, the guy that only has cigars in his skits,
unlit,
doesn't smoke them.
And I told Keith this privately when I did that for Chance, and he started, kind of plowing through the brackets. I went, I'm kind of rooting against Keith. You can't win the bracket when you don't smoke the actual cigar. But hey, I am a free market capitalist. I'm a constitutional republic voting. Like, let the vote stand. If the people want to vote for a fake cigar smoker, that's who wins.
Yeah, and a lot of it, what you were saying, there's some of it is that people are going and really voting based off the name. Like Truth Love Parent, who is with Aaron Brewster, one of the you'll see him in probably later after he gets done teaching martial arts. But he's a co-host here. He's a speaker at Striving for Eternity. He's got a podcast that has a lot of listeners.
Yeah,
but he got beat out by Street Talk Theology, who doesn't have a lot of listeners. And he was it's the name. People, like, if they don't know the two podcasts, I think they just vote for the name they like better.
There's a little bit of that. I saw a few where people went, "Ooh, I like the name of that. I'm voting for that." I went, "Well, okay."
Where I was voting for the underdog in every case that I could. Like, there's certain people I wanted to win, and then I'm voting underdog. So I've been voting against Haunted Cosmos and King's Hall the whole way, because they've they won and came in first, second last year, but I really wanted to see a Keith Foskey against Redeem Zoomer, and you want to explain, Greg, why we don't have Redeem Zoomer? I mean,
the providence of God.
No,
that's right.
Casting lots.
Oh.
Yeah, very quickly this morning. I was looking at the results, and it was 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left, and I'm just doing that thing where you just kind of pull it down like a pinwheel, letting it refresh. And every time I have started typing it in when it says finalizing results, and in the Redeem Zoomer and the King's Hall, Redeem Zoomer was up 52, or no, I'm sorry, King's Hall was up 50.2%. Okay, so 0.2% when it said finalizing results. So I typed it in, posted it up. Got it out to everyone. Then I went back and I looked, and I'm looking at the, because on your app, you can only see round numbers. When you're in the actual browser on X, you can see the point numbers, the 3-digit numbers, the 50.2. And it said 50-50, 6,400 votes. And I went, that's strange. Why am I not seeing the 50.2? Sure enough, confirmed it. They absolutely tied. At the very last second, Redeem Zoomer picked up 38 votes around there and tied. So we did what any good reformed podcast bracket would do, who believes in the sovereignty of God and his providence. And we went, Proverbs 16:33 on it. The cast of the die is in the lap, but every decision is from the Lord. So on a live stream, we rolled the die, and
loaded dice, by the way.
Came out on top. Oh, don't get me started. Right after that, someone said, "Oh, you got more of a chance to get even numbers than odd because 1, 3, 5, 7, 9." And then I had to go to AI and go, "No, there's 36 combinations. Here's a screenshot. Yeah. It's even. It's 50-50." Everyone thinks they're probability experts and statisticians on X.
And yeah, I can tell you, people are not very good at risk at all.
Yeah. Hey, look,
said the financial guy, exactly.
There's some people who could do math and some people that think 2 + 2 = 5. So it's all right.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is a lot of people on X are down to 2 brain cells and they're fighting for third place. You know what I'm saying?
I was always going for the cigars, I have to admit.
So,
yeah.
So I got to. So Parker couldn't make it. He was going to come in. Parker is giving away free podcast editing. And look, I tried everything against Keith Foskey just to not have it look like I was brutally destroyed. I wanted to. I mean, James White brutally destroyed me last year, and I think it was about the same percentage. so I tried everything, Greg. And I know you've seen this. I don't know if the rest of the sponsors had seen this, but I called in a favor of a friend. Now I'm going to ask those listening in the audience. This is where you just need to, if you're not driving, close your eyes and just listen, because I asked the president of the United States if he would come in and help me out, and so this is what he had shared. So let's hear from the president here.
It's everybody's favorite president here, and I have to say what an honor it is for you to hear from me right now, telling you to vote. Make sure you vote, because it'll be rigged otherwise, to vote for Andrew Rappaport's Rap Report. And we have a good report with Rappaport. He's a fantastic guy when he reports in his Rap Report. He really is terrific. And he's a great guy. Believe me, he really is a fantastic guy. I know a lot of people. He's one of them. So vote for his podcast for biblical and biblical. Unlike a lot of the other ones, they're not doing great. They're badly presented. They're not great. He gives a lot of great biblical insight, and he'll help the Christian. And we're helping a lot of Christians at the moment. We really are. So vote for him over the your Calvinist podcast. Vote for the Rap Report. He's a great guy. And I want to say, I love the Bible. And my favorite verse at the moment is from the Psalms, where I can run through a troop, which I think I really displayed that at the election. I really did. I can leave about that part, but vote for Andrew Rappaport. It's great. Believe me.
Does he got that voice down, or what? That voice
down. Not only the voice, but he's got the kind of rambling that doesn't make sense sometimes, where you just, word diarrhea, which is really good. Rap Report. He's a great guy. I know a lot of people. He's one of them.
He's one of them. Yeah. He's got the mannerism, and that's Ben Price. He's an Australian friend. He's the funniest thing I ever had was he does a great Trump, Schwarzenegger. But if anyone knows who Ray Comfort is, Ray Comfort's an evangelist known for his evangelism. And so we're at dinner, a whole bunch of us, and people are just having him do different names. Make Andrew great again. Andrew wasn't great in the first place, so you can't make her great again. Melissa says, make Andrew great again. So we're at this dinner, and I people are giving him, hey, do Schwarzenegger, so I said, do Ray Comfort sharing the gospel with Donald Trump.
Oh no.
And Ben is so masterful. He actually had like Ray Comfort trying to share the gospel, and mid-sentence, as if Trump is cutting him off, completely switches voice and mannerism. So it's like, do you think does it concern you that, if you were to die today, you could go to hell? And he's like, I would have go. I've never needed forgiveness. I never needed forgiveness.
He's pretty good.
He's so masterful with it. He's great. But
I almost want to call him and hire him to do like my new intro.
Well, I told him
to the Dead Men Walking something like that.
I gave you his number or his contact. So right. So you might want to have some voice stuff. So yeah, he's really talented with it. But I tried. I was desperate. I was trying everything I could, and
I don't know if you guys saw Keith Foskey had some Lutheran satire cartoon up on Twitter or X earlier today. Did you see that, Greg?
Yeah, the Patricks.
Yes, the Patricks.
He's friends with the guy who does that cartoon, and he's very talented as well.
Yeah, he did a really good job. All the Patricks were Keith, by the way. So
I'll have to go look on X for that. And this is the thing, what Greg said earlier, this contest he's doing is not so much, you do get to win a really nice Bible. And I do admit that, that's really what I was I knew I had no chance of getting, but I was dreaming. I mean, my wife would say I have enough nice Bibles, or actually enough Bibles. But can you ever have enough Bibles?
No, especially when they're rebound, they got that premium leather on it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so true story. I had this guy that I was counseling, and he was in my house, and he's looking at all my Bibles, and he goes, "Man, Andrew, with all those Bibles, you should be the holiest man I know." And without missing a beat, my wife goes, "Only if he reads them."
That's true.
Thanks,
true.
dear.
Hey, really quick, guys, just to give you a quick update. It's getting crazy here. It is your Calvinist, Keith Foskey, is at 49.8%, and Haunted Cosmos just took over at 50.2%. The King's Hall is at 51.7%. Matthew Everhart just dropped 48.3%. So each race, the largest is 1.5%, and the slimmest is 0.5%. That's how close it is right now.
So
Between the two races, over 6,000 votes cast.
And how much time left?
Tomorrow, 10 a.m.
I think we need Joel Webben to determine the difference between the two races here.
He's the best we got.
So
is it genetic? I don't know.
Here's the request I'm making to everyone is to go out to x.com/real DMW, DMW standing for Dead Man Walking, Real DMW podcast. It's the first post there that's pinned. Is the bracket. Go right now and vote for Your Calvinist podcast right now. Like everybody, go out there and then share it so that everybody goes and votes for Keith. We can't have Haunted Cosmos knock Keith out. That's just we can't. We gotta work on that. I will be. You know what I tried to do, and Greg's kind of busted on me last year for this because I would win overnight. And there's been lots of debates. A lot of people
hashtag stop the steal.
Yeah. There's people that go, what's going on? How did it suddenly flip? And we've had that this year where people are talking about anonymous accounts and things like that. But I have a large following in the Philippines, and so what my strategy is always. Like let it while the Americans are sleeping, I put it out and now you try to get all the Filipinos to
suddenly 10,000 votes at a Quezon City.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, X is global. You know what I mean? And podcasts are global. It's really crazy when you look at all of us in the podcasting industry, when you kind of look at your demographic and you can see where people are listening and you go, oh my gosh, 500 people in somewhere on the continent of Africa listen to me. What the heck is that all about? And you just realize you don't know who you're talking to, who you're touching. It's a sobering reminder just to, for any of us that do get on a microphone and proclaim Christ to, remember people are listening and make sure we're doing it for the glory of God,
Well, I was for a couple of weeks, I was the number one Christian podcast. The Rappaport podcast was number one in the Philippines. And because the way that the algorithms work, it's based off of the follows, the number of people that follow it. And so, I was in the Philippines speaking to like 1,500 people, and I encouraged them all to take their phone out and subscribe or follow the Rappaport. Well, they did it. And so I jumped to number one. I stayed number one for a couple of weeks there in the Philippines. So that was good.
Yeah.
But so Adam, we haven't gotten to hear a lot from you. Let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing with the Bibles. What the fact is, for a lot of people, they're going to say, well, I just can't afford, well, I don't know how much you charge, but some of the premium Bibles could be hundreds of dollars, $200, $300, $400, $500. And for a lot of people, that's just way too much. But is this something that, hey, this is like my other Bibles that are going to, I have them and they're going to break up and, I'll be, my kids will have to give them away when I die. Is that what happens with premium Bibles?
No, not the Bibles I make. You get a good rebinder to do a Bible for you. It's going to last for, decades and decades. And that's because the binding method we use is actually quite a bit different than one you just buy off the shelf in a store. So we use an edge line method. So where most Bibles fail is kind of on that opening in the front liner. They don't use leather; they use some sort of vinyl or paper. And so a lot of times the cover will just fall off after a few years if you're using your Bible. On an Edgeline Bible, that's never going to happen. So, Tom asked earlier, should you ever get something like an Allen or a Schuyler Bible rebound? And, those are edge-lined as well, and they'll last for a really long time. Great paper and all that. But, if you've ever had a good Bible rebind, I mean, Greg can tell you he's holding it. What do you think, Greg?
Well, here, this
last for a while.
And I have a rebind that I'm on year 10, and it's it looks like the day I bought it. Now I use some mink oil, and I like to oil it up, and I'm all into that.
Yep.
But here's the thing: you're going to pay 60, 70, 80 bucks for a bonded leather paper bound Bible, essentially. Okay, if you go to Crossway or you go to any one of these big guys, unless you're going to a discount store, you're paying 60, 80 bucks. Okay. You're going to pay so let's say you even pay 300, 350, 400. Let's say you get it, customized exactly how you want it. Premium everything, premium ribbons, premium, leather. Your cheap Bible that you paid 80 bucks for is going to last you 3 years. I have one going on 10 years. Looks like the day I bought it. And I took it to the boundary waters in between the United States and Canada on a 17-day canoe trip. Had it in my pack out. I mean, it was all twisted up and stuff. And here's the thing. It's like, okay, if you're actually going to use your Bibles and you're going to be opening them, flipping through them, and they're going to be traveling with you, what is $300 when a cheap one's 60 to 80? So all you're doing is 2.5xing your price, and it's lasting 5 to 10x. To me, let's ask the finance guy. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Right.
No. And we save the average family $300 to $500 a month anyway. So you sit down with us.
There you go.
We save you enough money for you to buy a nice new Bible.
Yeah.
Just make sure you get some Squirrely Joe's coffee beforehand because you're going to need to take a lot of notes.
You order the Squirrely Joe's coffee, strivingfortraining.org/coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Then you call Josiah so that you can get financially set up so that you could save the money to get a Bible from Adam. I like how that works.
Right.
Yeah. And just to put that in perspective too. Yeah. Yeah. I probably spend $80 on the materials for the rebind. So it's really high quality stuff. It's not, it's not cheap stuff. It's the best bookbinding leather you can buy. And all that. So I don't cheap out on anything.
The ribbons are usually pretty pricey too, I hear.
Yeah, ribbons. Yeah, Beresford's ribbons is kind of the name brand from the UK. They're kind of expensive to get over here. I mean, yeah, the ribbons alone will cost $3 to $5 a Bible.
And let me just put some updates here. Melissa said, I just voted for Keith. Parker Brown said, tell everyone to go vote for Keith and Matthew. And then the Twitchy theologian, who I was recently on his podcast, said, just voted. I'm going to go live and have my people vote too. So go. I haven't seen it switch. It's getting closer again, but we got to get Keith back in the lead here. So make sure
I'm showing 50-50 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're on the app, it's just going to say 50-50. If you actually log into X on a full browser, like from a PC or a laptop, you'll get the point.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's 50.2 to 49.8. So the app rounds up and down or just makes it 50-50. You know what I mean? It'll round up to 50, down to 50. But right now, 50.2 is, well, hang on, let me refresh. But what a great name, Twitchy Theologian. I like that.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Yeah.
Too much Squirrely Joe's.
Yeah.
So now Keith is the only Baptist left in the contest right now, right?
He is.
I mean, come on, Baptist. What are you guys doing?
There we go. We got to get the Baptists going there. All right.
Better Baptist than Papists.
On the hierarchy of things, right, Josiah?
Yeah.
All right. So we got some questions that did come in, and all of them for Josiah.
Goodness.
So this one came in earlier. Tara asked, do you think the housing market will collapse?
Oh, what do you mean by collapse? Because everyone's going to need a place to live. So you have a basic captive market. Everyone's going to want a house. The pricing's a little weird, but also materials are a little funky right now. So I'd say we're probably several years away from anything even remotely close to a 2008 level financial crisis with housing. but you're also never going to see mortgage rates drop below 5% ever again. So I'd say no. Things are going to stabilize, and if you're going to buy a house, buy one sooner rather than later. Things are going to get a lot worse before they get better.
Can I jump in there and back him up on that? As a I own my own
you're a
estate
realtor.
brokerage.
Yeah, you should be asking him.
Yeah, and no, everything you said was accurate. 15 years in real estate, and what we had is an unbalanced market. Sellers were in the driver's seat, buyers were not. Right now, what happened was, if you go decade by decade, 1950 to 1960, 1960, 1970, and you track new builds of houses, and then you put up 2010 to 2020. 2010 to 2020, we built 16% to the average of the previous 7 decades because of the crisis in 2008, 9, 10. All the builders got out of it in the early 2010s, and then COVID on the tail end. So what you have nationally, on average, for every 85 people looking for a house, there's only one available. So we don't have a lending issue like we did last time where we saw prices increase. We have an inventory issue. Now, most experts think we should be done with that issue in about 5 to 6 years, which is the timeline Josiah is talking about as well, where the market is slowly coming back into balance to where it's a balanced sellers and buyers market, just as many buyers looking as many people selling. I think that's going to take 5 or 6 more years. But like Josiah said, they're not making any more dirt. And very few things come back down to earth once they're at a certain price, especially with the inflation we've seen in the last 2 to 3 years. So I tell people all the time, and it sounds a little gimmicky and like I'm trying to sell them, but I also tell them, I'm going to eat whether you buy or sell, don't buy or sell a house either. You need to buy now. The people in 2015 get to 2020 and they go, why didn't I buy in 2015? And the people get to 2022, go, why didn't I buy in 2020? And the people in 2024 are going to look back and go, why, right? And it just goes on and on and on, because we're going to keep seeing an increase, an appreciation in housing, at least for the next 5 years. Now it's slowed down already. It's exponential in 21, 22, and 23. It was nuts. It was 40, 50, 60% appreciation. That's not sustainable, right? That's I literally helped someone buy a house in 21 and we sold it in 22 and all they did was paint the walls and they made 50 grand on it, right? That's not going to happen again. But at the same time, we're going to keep seeing appreciation over the next 5 or 6 years. And he's absolutely right to look at. We have a whole generation of kids that grew up on 0% prime and 3 and 4% interest rates.
Yeah, that's
for
not
10,
happening again.
10 years. That's never happening again.
No.
Once they jacked it to 7, they might bring it, we're in 6.5, 6 range right now. They might bring it to 5.5 at some point, but it's not going below that. I mean, you got to remember in the 80s and 90s, if you got something in the 10 to 13% range, it was unbelievable. In the early 2000s, if you got something at the 7 to 9% range, it was like, we're stealing money. So for all the first time home buyers out there, the younger couples that are going, it's too high. You were just used to it being way too low.
Yeah, and you can still get an FHA loan, so you're going to get it 0 or 3% down and subsidized rate there, or you can go for a USDA loan. You can either do a new build, which is 0% down, or I think there's 2 other kinds of USDA loans where you're effectively doing 0% down at a subsidized rate. So there's still definitely options for you. Just talk to a decent mortgage lender, talk to a really nice licensed real estate professional, maybe Greg, and then go buy the house if you can afford it. Because it's not going to get any better, at least not in any reasonable time frame.
All right, so Josiah, another question that came in for you from D. Question for Josiah: can you provide a more? What? You're laughing already?
Yes, yes, I'm laughing already.
You saw what it. Okay, so and I'm going to have a comment on before you answer, but can you provide a more in-depth analysis / explanation regarding your thoughts on Dave Ramsey on financial planning? And so I'm going to say, everyone thinks that I'm trying to copy Dave Ramsey when people ask how I'm doing, and I say better than I deserve. I didn't know Dave Ramsey says it because I've never listened to Dave Ramsey.
He's ruined it for me.
Yeah, that was something that the guy who started the seminary that I attended, that I went to, used to say, and I picked it up from him. But I'm just going to say this. I don't know anything about Dave Ramsey and his financial advice. I don't like Dave Ramsey for a very simple reason. He doesn't like Christians.
No, he doesn't.
We were at the Super Bowl. Someone recognized Dave Ramsey at the Super Bowl as we were evangelizing, and they were like, "Hey, Dave Ramsey, hi." And he just turned his back and then went on his program and criticized us that were doing open air evangelism without listening to us. He didn't want anything to do with the Christians that were there evangelizing because he didn't like the way they did it and totally misrepresented the way. So I'm not a fan of Dave Ramsey, but now I'll let Josiah explain why you shouldn't be either.
To say nothing of his personal character. Or he likes to work with Stephen Furtick and Joel Osteen and a few other people. But if I had to break it down for those kind of laymen who only know a little bit about finance, Dave Ramsey is the Joel Osteen of financial planning. If you don't know anything about theology, you might be inclined to get someone a Joel Osteen book. If you know nothing about financial planning, you might be inclined to think, oh yeah, Dave Ramsey. He's got a nice smile. He seems to know what he's doing. He's got a radio show. A lot of people listen to him. My aunt said that he was great and he got them out of debt. That's fantastic. It's like, yeah, if you listen to Joel Osteen long enough, you might hear enough pieces of gospel presentation to put together something that might be evangelistic in nature. But no, Dave Ramsey, same way. If you take his advice, the first bite's going to be sweet. Like, okay, yeah, great, get out of debt. And then the rest of it's poison that's going to kill your net worth because of the way he wants you to not invest, to pay down all of your debts regardless of interest rate, to pay it off in the second dumbest way possible to pay off your debts by targeting by the smallest balance. It's mathematically untenable. And then he wants you to invest in a Roth IRA regardless of your current tax situation and in mutual funds exclusively. There's loads of advice that you could give that isn't that general blanket advice that is legitimately helpful. But him trying to help the median American, he ends up helping no actual individual Americans. And then the church thinks they know what they're doing because they're getting a guy who's using the Bible to push his platform. And so you end up with a bunch of Dunning-Kruger-esque people who think they know enough about finance and end up leaving nothing to their children and grandchildren because of the way that Dave Ramsey has robbed the church of billions of dollars of inheritance.
Okay, so I'm calling out on the audience. Someone's got to make a meme. Okay, what he just said, that Dave Ramsey is the Joel Osteen. How was it? He's the Joel Osteen of finance.
Yeah. And he really is. Like, a lot of people defend the guy. It's because they know nothing about finance.
Someone put that in there, Joel, that he's the Joel Osteen of finance. For real finance, check out Dominion Wealth Strategies. So someone make that meme for me. I want to share that.
Yeah, about a quarter of our memes on our Facebook page were just anti-Dave Ramsey stuff for probably 6 months.
Tom will probably have it done before the show's over.
I might be able to do something.
It feels like to me, to bring this to a parable, since this is a theology podcast, in the parable of the talents, Dave Ramsey advice really is the one who buries the talent.
That's really a good point.
Wow.
And thinks he did something good for the master. And the master rebukes him and says, no. There was other ones that went out and made that talent double and triple and quadruple and work for them. And I think that's, and don't let me talk on your behalf, Josiah, but I've talked to you before. That's really what we're supposed to do as Christians. We're not supposed to go just live month to month, just make sure we're not in debt, right? I mean, even the Bible doesn't say anything negative about debt. It does give a warning. It says, hey, just be warned, if you borrow money, you will be slave to the lender, meaning you have responsibilities to them. So there's a providential warning there. But to borrow money, to actually invest in things, I borrow money every single month on a credit card and pay it off every single month, and then take those monies and do what I want with them on, for camping and other things and travel. And what it is, though, is I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Josiah, is sometimes I think he gets so into the, working with people with lack of any discipline that he really simplifies it down to, hey, it's kind of like when you say when you diet, just don't take in more calories, than you expend. He's basically going, hey, you got a hole in the boat. Don't take in more money than, don't spend more money than you're taking in, which that's pretty simple financial advice. And that might help a few people, but in the long term, for actually investing, growing your money, letting it work for you, passive income, all those different things, and what you focus on, Josiah, is really doing a disservice to Christians.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Huge disservice.
I mean, one of the things that, like his focus seems to be on paying down the debt. Like from what people who have told me they follow his plan and everything, it's about paying off debt. And so what I do, he would, like, when I had a 12% mortgage, Okay, that's high. Can I make that up in the market? It'd be hard. So what do? I try to pay the house off quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So I paid my house off in 9 years, my first house. But now that I have under 2% of a, like I usually pay more than my principal to pay off the mortgage. But in this house, that wouldn't make sense. When I can make 5-6% of that money, why pay off the loan at 2%? That's under 2%.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Basic arbitrage, which is a concept that the Christian church has not learned yet. And what seems to be like maybe a quarter of the time I spend in a financial consultation is like, hey, we want to move your net worth needle in the right direction as fast as possible. The thing that's charging you 24% interest, we're going to target that instead of putting your money in the market where it might earn 10 to 15. Right. This is the biggest focus. But as soon as it's not, and you have a bunch of debts that are charging you 6% or less, those are not the priority anymore. We're going to hold on to those, make minimum payments, and put the rest of your money to good work.
You have to remember, too, Dave Ramsey was giving people advice to pay off their house in full to 85% of people who had a mortgage under 4%. Like I'm on a 15-year 1.9%. I pulled out $150,000 in equity, bought 2 homes, flipped them, paid it back in a year, and I'm borrowing money at 1.9% to make $100,000 in a year. Why wouldn't I do that? I will definitely go into more debt. Now look, there's a lot of things involved there. I'm in the industry. I know what I'm doing with real estate. I would never do that in yacht sales or something that I know nothing about. I work every day with homes, so I know what the market bears and what I can sell them for and what I'm going to have into and what my rate of return is going to be. But the point is he would tell you never do that. You're taking out on more debt. Well, I did take on more temporary debt to not only pay it off, but make a profit. And at 1.9%, of course, I'm going to use equity loan or something like that. If I don't have access to $150,000 cash, you bet I'd like to borrow it at 1.9. Try to go get a loan right now, a personal loan, and see what your rate's going to be.
It's interesting too that you brought up the talents and everything. One of the things that the lazy or the worthless servant was accused of is, why didn't you invest in a bait? We have a person that we can go to, Dominion and everything. If you don't know how to invest, go to the people who can.
Yeah.
And it's the same way in any talent that we have. If you don't know how to evangelize, go out and support somebody who does and everything to advance the kingdom of God.
Lost to come to your church for free.
Yeah.
So okay, so we have some good criticism. Kathleen is saying, glad he addressed the title of the video right off the bat. I got to admit, it got me to watch. I was hoping some of the other podcasters were going to come in, but only the sponsors did. We talked about it a bit, and so let's get to that a little bit. Greg, is you said you set this up, the podcast brackets, because you just wanted to get people to know about other podcasts. There's been a lot of there's some people that I think have taken it too serious, calling for you to remove people because so Redeemed Zoomer was calling out for the Catholic vote in a Reformed podcast bracket, and so people were like, oh, he's got to be removed. I kind of thought that was a brilliant move. I mean, I don't necessarily think I would have called the Catholics, but I could see next year, saying to the charismatics who know I'm seriously cessationist, that I'll say, hey, I'll speak in tongues if you help me get through the next round.
I don't know if I'm going to start blaspheming the Lord over a reform bracket, but look, the enemy of my enemy is my friend sometimes, right? I mean, that's just strategy. So I didn't mind it. There's no technical rules, and nor could I police that anyway. We opened it up to 128, and I had some podcasts in there that I'd never listened to. I went off the basis of other people suggesting them that I thought I could trust, or maybe that I kind of knew online. And then, I even had someone send me, hey, look what this one guy said who hosts this one podcast. He said some really nasty, vile things. And, it kind of it reflects on me a little bit. I don't agree with them, but I didn't really vet them that far. So maybe next year we might have more of a vetting process. There's certain podcasts that I just absolutely didn't include because I don't agree with anything that they say, even if they call themselves Reformed. And if people don't like it, it's my bracket, and I do what I want. I'm authoritarian.
You're preaching to the stone choir here.
Yeah. There you go.
So, but
just
I think
over there.
for a lot of us, it's not about winning so much as it is the fun. I mean, I probably went up against Keith doing more things against Keith, who I lost to miserably, right? That was blew me out of the water compared to all the others, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, Keith's a personal friend, right? It was I was actually looking forward to seeing what Keith was going to do back to me, but it was Valentine's Day, so he was more interested in being with his bride, which I totally get, because he ended up telling me that he's like, yeah, sorry, I didn't have any. He's like, I saw your posted like after I was with my wife all day, but I don't think that as Christians that competition is a bad thing. We could argue, okay, Paul in scripture, he appeals to competition, running the race. He appeals to athletes, to boxers, to things like this. So it's not like it's absolutely a sin, as some people seem to think. But I think it comes down to what's our attitude. If I lose in the bracket, I lost all three in the second round, but the reality is I'm just glad to see who's making it past where I made it, and I'm trying to support them. And the ribbing I do, at least I can speak for my own heart. The ribbing I do is because I think it's a good friendly competition where we can promote one another. I mean, as much as I was doing stuff and mentioning Keith and asking for people to vote for me, what am I actually doing? I'm also promoting Keith, and he's got a great podcast, and I love his podcast, so I want it to win, right?
Yeah. So here's my thought too. The other reason why I do this too is, for as many times as I say things that seem very, straightforward or harsh, or I get called a jerk a lot. Sometimes my wife just goes, you got to tone it down. Sometimes people don't think the same way you do. I have very thick skin. So if I'm in a room and people are arguing and debating and saying things and it's getting heated, I absolutely love it. And then afterwards we shake hands, we'll go grab some wings, and I won't think about it twice. Well, not a lot of people are wired that way, right? They take things personally. Things were said, they think about it. But what this does to this bracket is it kind of, with all the brother wars and all that stuff going on, it kind of allows you to slip in under the radar and go, look at, there's about, out of these 128, there's probably 30 podcasts on there that people have extremely particular views on, and they probably hate each other. But at the same time, they all seem to be voting because you can kind of come together and have a consensus on, well, we're just doing this podcast kind of for fun. And it's my way too of going, look at, everything doesn't have to be so serious. And look, I'll stand and I'll defend good doctrine and good theology, and I'll call you out if you're saying something that's blasphemous or outside of orthodoxy, right? But if I can, bring some people together and have a little fun and go, okay, hang on, guys. If we all believe in the orthodox understanding of who Christ was, I think we can do a bracket. We can put the other stuff to the side. Two, if I can bring some exposure to not only other podcasts, but to brothers in the Lord who are building things in the business in the way of sponsors, and they can go visit Joe, and they can go visit Josiah, and they can go visit Adam and Parker and all these guys, which we should be doing. We should be supporting each other in business more. I'm a firm believer in that. Then it's a win-win for me.
Yeah, sure. Well, this would be a fun story for folks who haven't heard it, Greg. And maybe Joe and Josiah haven't, Tom may not even. But so when Greg and I first met, you're talking about getting wings together. It was actually a Buffalo Wild Wings, which is where Keith ended up doing his, because of Greg saying, hey, how would a Methodist order his Buffalo Wild Wings? Well, that's what created one of his skits that he did on how the different denominations offer or buy wings. And, one of the things is, so here, a bunch of Reformed Baptists, Greg was the only Presbyterian at the table, and I was the only dispensationalist at the table. And so the discussion started getting into, into theonomy and different issues where everyone started like going baptism. After baptism and going after Greg. And Greg, so Greg said he doesn't mind getting into a debate, and then like, hey, let's get together. I grew up Jewish. We're trained to debate. It's a family activity because it sharpens your thinking. We're trained to debate to sharpen the thinking, not to have emotion. And this is the big problem people have is I think so many people think debating has to be emotional. And you can you could debate, disagree, and then go out and get a burger, right? And so Keith is sitting there. He's sitting right next to me, and I still to this day think this was the funniest thing. I loved it that he did this. He's sitting there. All these guys around the table are pointing at Greg, giving him a hard time about being a Presbyterian, and he just goes, "Hey, what? Why are you all picking on me? We got a dispute here." And then everyone all of a sudden just turns and starts on my theology. And Greg was off the hot seat. And it was the funniest thing because all of a sudden, like he just finds, it was kind of like, where Paul is sitting there and he goes to the Pharisees and Sadducees and they're sitting, goes, "Hey, I'm being charged for, I'm being accused because I believe in the resurrection." And all of a sudden, all the Pharisees are like, "Oh yeah, you Sadducees don't believe in the resurrection." I mean, that was Greg.
I had to direct the rage of the mob a little bit to get it.
That's right. Why are we talking about baptism? We should be talking about covenant theology.
That's exactly what he did, and he changed it. But see, that's the thing of. That right there, that's actually the moment where, and this is just, maybe I'm just weird this way, but at that moment I was like, I love this guy.
I had only met you 10 minutes earlier, but I got to tell you, when you've got a Tom Shepard, red-faced, and he's talking about baptism to you, you got to go, "Hey, but this guy over here he believes in a rapture hatch and that computers are the beast." I just had to think of anything I could think of to get Tom off me, He was making he almost converted me back to Baptist.
I believe that strategy is called replacement theology.
Yeah.
Oh, Josiah's got jokes.
But see, the thing is that I do think, right? So we're here, we talk about apologetics. And we've talked about this in the past, but part of apologetics has to be that we got to be careful not to take ourselves so seriously that we miss what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, some people, when we do apologetics, right, they get so focused on trying to win a debate that they miss the fact that you're supposed to be evangelizing the lost.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, great, you won the debate and he's going to hell, right? Like,
you won, but by what standard?
Correct. And that's
it took me to my early 30s to realize that I could get much farther with someone I disagree with instead of making statements and instead just shift and ask, "Well, why do you believe that?"
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I'm interested. And man, when you do that, though, if they're in a poor theology or poor doctrine, they will kind of trap themselves in that when they have to explain to you why they hold their position instead of just, you know what I mean? Instead of just pointing your finger going, "Well, you got to believe this and this Bible verse says that." And that there's a time and place for that, I think. But I found it's much easier if I'm genuinely, interested and curious, which most of the time I am. Well, why do you believe it? What do you do about this? Well, what about this verse? What do you think here? And you'll hear a lot of "I don't knows," and that's a good opportunity. Well, this is how I see it. This is how the church fathers have seen it. This is how, right? And I don't know. It makes for a more conducive conversation. I found.
Yeah, I think it's important that when we remember that when we're talking with people, we kind of remind ourselves. Let's put them in like a family member's position. That we're really trying to communicate a way that they know Christ from a loving standpoint. If there's no love in it, you're just not going to win them over.
Yeah. I mean, one example, I'm going to put this up. Robert was in earlier, and he was mentioning his podcast network, which is Truth and Love Network, and I've had him on my rap report, even though I have the Christian podcast community, and it's very similar. And Truth and Love does a similar thing for podcasters that the Christian podcast community does. Why in the world would I have him on my podcast? Isn't that competition? Aren't we supposed to want everyone to be just an our thing? No. I think what Robert's doing at Truth and Love is a great blessing to the body of Christ. And I promote that. And I have no problem promoting that because it's not about look, I don't know how you guys feel, about this, but I have a big issue with platform building. Yeah. I think there's many people who think they're getting into ministry, and before long they're just on social media building a platform for themselves rather than doing ministry, and they've replaced ministry with platform building.
I mean, some of those guys are 4 out of 5 though.
He's got jokes.
No one's subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do see a lot of people who basically just want an audience. They want to talk and they want to have a lot of people hear them. They're not particularly interested in winning souls. They're interested in leaving a mark.
Yeah.
And a mark that has their name very, very, let's say, largely emblazoned on it. You know, in for the glory of Christ, so and so did this thing.
Sure.
They just end up as an Ozymandias. Like, oh, great, where's your empire? It's nothing but sand, and Christ's kingdom lasts forever. But yeah, you built your little platform while you were here. Isn't that nice?
Yeah. Well, you know, someone that definitely is that way is Squirrely Joe here. I mean, just wants to talk.
Yeah.
We can't shut him up. Jeez.
Yeah. Let me just there's someone in the backstage, Jeremy. If you are, he's got his camera off, so I don't know if you're ready to come on, but if you are, turn your camera on instead of the OBS, and I'll know to bring you in.
Well,
but,
I would say very quickly, Andrew, too. It is for me, and I think it's in any industry. As a real estate brokerage, if I see other realtors that are doing a very good job, I want more of those. And I want them to weed out everyone in my industry that's doing a poor job. It's the same way in podcasting. It's the same way in finance. I'm sure it's the same way in coffee. Joe makes premium coffee. He does it very uniquely, has very unique profiles. He wants to be in that premium group with the other premium coffee makers and go, the guys who don't do that great of a job and don't understand the art of it and don't understand the chemistry and all that, they're going to fade away eventually anyway. The tide brings everyone up if we're all doing our absolute best and for the glory of God. So I have no problem. I've always found that's a very mature view. You show me someone who's checking someone else's numbers or bad mouthing someone in their industry or worried that there's too many new X amount of whatever in their industry. It's a very immature view, but there's no wisdom or discernment attached to that too. And it's just not going to go very far in anything you do.
Yeah, and I think this is why. I mean, this is what my father explained to me with why he would have us debate around the dinner table, and it's so that you learn better skills. So you learn what arguments are bad, right? Look, anyone that's had a debate, okay, they prepare for the debate, and every single person wins the debate in their own mind.
Sure.
And then they come to the real debate and they go, what happened there? Right. And that's why you do the debate, is so you realize where your arguments fell. Well, it's the same thing. Joe's going to make coffee. Well, if he's going to be more known than, someone else's coffee, he's got to make something better than them. So it's not just enough like, hey, taste what they do. Oh, I could do better than that. Okay. And now you have something that people are going to end up wanting.
Yeah. And with coffee, it's 90% marketing anyway.
Well, Joe's got that down. Let me bring Jeremy in. He doesn't have a camera. Jeremy, you can unmute yourself.
Hey.
Jeremy.
I faced Jeremy in the first round, and he is with the Thea Money podcast. And I don't know if you wanted to share what your wife thought was going to happen, and we could talk about what really happened.
I think my wife was impressed that I only lost you by like 10%. You had like 55 and I had 45. I think she thought it was going to be a lot worse than that in your favor.
Yeah, when she saw the light of it, didn't she say like it was going to be a blowout?
Yeah. What was it you said, Rose? I love you, but you're dead, or something like that.
So what you're saying is when you two measured up podcasts, his was just a little bigger than yours.
Yeah, just a little.
I even pulled out my secret weapon. I got my friend Brian, who runs that really big JC Ryo page, to retweet it, or whatever the word is in the X world now, to tell people to vote for me, and it didn't help.
Is Jeremy, do you have on your video there, is that a Klingon symbol? What is that?
It's the OBS logo. I'm on my desktop right now, and I don't have a camera plugged into it. I bought a camera for it at one point, but the camera conflicted with my mic in some weird way. I have no idea how it did that. So this is just the OBS logo. It throws up whenever I don't have the camera plugged in, because I have OBS on this desktop.
All right. Well, you contact me offline, and we'll set that up. I'll help you set that up.
Yeah.
Ignore my nerdy Trekkie reference then.
Yeah, you thought it was really cool, and it was just.
Right. And everybody knows the Dominion symbol's better.
So Jeremy, yeah, Jeremy, you and I are friends. We competed in the first round. We were joking about it. We had the competition is like for those who think that the competition is somehow sinful. because we want to beat another Christian, as was I was accused of wanting. What are your thoughts? Are you were you just looking to win at all costs? Was it friendly competition? Was there? Did you think it was sinful in any way?
No, I thought it was fun to go up against someone I knew in the first round. Last year was my first time in it, and I went up against White Horse Inn in the first round. So that one was really fun. So you got all these people like, beat the woke people, vote for Theana Money.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
So last year I beat White Horse in the first round, and I forget who I lost to in the second. And then this year I lost in the first round to Rappaport. But that one was fun. Rappaport and I were joking around with each other and stuff the whole time.
Yeah, and that's the way I think it should be.
Yeah. But it's not so much that I want to win. I just hate losing.
It's the girls. The girls.
Especially the girls. I lost to the SBC group.
Oh man.
I know that's rough.
Oof.
Yeah.
I'm gonna live with Tom for the next year. It's not even that big a deal in the scheme of things, but he's just gonna be stewing about it every time he's out there open air preaching. Take a break.
You've got at least 9 marks against you.
Okay, so
he's just behind the building by the dumpster ripping a dart. It's like, I lost the girls.
Okay.
I lost the girls.
But I wanna
Repent and
see-
believe. Hell and damnation. That's what I meant.
I want to see the video of Tom doing open air evangelism. He's out there sharing the gospel and just see someone walk by and go, "Hey, aren't you the guy that lost to the girls?"
Hey, Andrew, offline, we need to talk about hiring someone to do that.
So I want to do that. All right, so Jeremy, let folks know what Theana Money is all about, what your podcast is, so that people can know about it and hopefully help you in next year's in the second round. But more so that people would go and follow the podcast.
Thanks. So the original idea behind Theana Money was 4 or 5 years ago. Me and a mutual friend who myself and Rappaport, I don't know about anyone else here, Brandon Scalf, me and him and some other guys, Drew Von Nita, that listeners to this podcast will know his name. We're kind of getting together Cruciform Ministries. And Brandon's like, all right, Jeremy, we got to have an economics podcast. We're going to get a bunch of podcasts going. So you need to be the one to do that because you're the only one who can. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I know enough about economics to do a podcast entirely on that. And I started thinking about it more. And I'm like, there's, books by like Gary North and stuff, but there's not really like a podcast talking about theonomy and economics and trying to talk about where they converge. And so I came up with the idea. I came up with the name. I thought Brandon was going to tell me it was a stupid name and I need to come up with a new one. And to my surprise, he actually liked it. And so now the rest is history with it. So it's on all the major podcast catchers, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Castbox, and some other ones.
Yeah, and so where was the one that I wanted to put up? Let's see. Okay, so this comment came up earlier when Josiah, you were talking. Carol was saying, just learned of a new podcast that would be very helpful in my financial struggles right now. I thought that Dave Ramsey was the way to go, but learning about Josiah is great. Thank you. So there you go.
I don't run a podcast, but I'm happy to help you one-on-one. But yeah, Theana Money does a lot of great work. I've known Jeremy for quite some time. And if you're looking for micro and macroeconomics from a biblical perspective, he does more of a deep dive. I do more application. But if you're looking for concepts, Jeremy's one of the best.
Yeah, for the most part, for most people, I would not recommend Dave Ramsey. If someone just cannot control themselves with money, they can't have cash in their pocket without it being gone 5 minutes later, that's the type of person that could benefit from Dave Ramsey. But for most people, some of his ideas would really hold them back. If you actually know how to manage money, Dave Ramsey isn't good for you.
So most of Congress should listen to Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, actually, that would be a really good idea. Can we make that happen?
Okay, so when I say this, Greg, you're probably going to agree with me even more. So I was going to say to what you said, Jeremy, is that if you have someone that can't control their money, that as soon as they get it, they spend it, and they're always in debt. The Bible does have a solution for that. It's called slavery.
It's true.
Hey, maybe I'm going to get canceled for this. I don't know, but I do think that the Old Testament 7-year debt slavery is a way better system than our modern bankruptcy laws.
Yeah, that takes 10 years. That's like a whole 3 years longer than God's standard.
Yeah, but no, because a lot of people don't understand when I say with slavery. I mean, slavery was not meant the way that people think of slavery as an ownership system where you get free labor and beat someone and do whatever you want because they're not a person. No, in the Bible, slavery was an economic solution to people that could not control themselves with money. It was a way that the master had to provide for somebody. The person did work, but the master took care of what they've proven they're incapable of taking care of, which is money. And so they become a slave in a slave, as a debt, paying off that debt. By the way, for people that don't realize, in the Bible, a slave got a half day's wage. They were not property.
Yep.
So it's very different than what they think of with slavery, with the African slave trade. So the biblical system is a way of the master had a responsibility to provide for someone to make sure that they could take care of that person, since that person couldn't take care of themselves or their family. And that is why when you had if you had someone that was a Jewish person gets himself indebted to someone, he's enslaved for up to 7 years, right? And he marries someone who has children. People say, wait, if he gets his freedom, but now the wife has to remain a slave with the kids. How is that fair? Well, it's because the master has the responsibility to take care of the wife and children because they're under his care. And the person who's now out of slavery because of the Jubilee, he's already proven that he is irresponsible. And so it's a protection for the wife and children.
Also, I would add it makes that verse that I quoted earlier too, that the borrower becomes slave to the lender. It's not that you have no money, you have reduced wages, you have reduced income if you're borrowing money. So beware. And it is good because, Andrew, as a Jewish young man, I mean, you got a lot of budgeting advice from your father when you'd go up to him and ask him, hey, Dad, can I borrow $50? You go, $50? I don't got $40. What do you need $30 for?
That was the worst accent I've ever heard for a Jewish.
I was waiting 20 minutes to use that. I was waiting for.
I mean, and on the eighth day they took 10% right off the top.
Aha!
Yeah, out of all of us here, the only one that should be talking finance is the Jewish guy, right?
Thank God for the Ishkibor Heil.
Yeah. Andrew doesn't even wear penny loafers. He gets a sore neck. Are they still there? Oh my gosh, are they still there? Oh,
you do realize why Jewish people have large noses?
Why is that?
Air is free.
Air is free.
Okay.
You know how you could tell it's really cold outside?
What did I start?
When Jewish people or lawyers have their hands in their own pockets. So
we're canceled.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got Jewish friends.
Yeah, let me bring Melissa in. Melissa's got some questions. Melissa's got some questions for Josiah.
Hi. First of all, thanks for coming on, and I would like you to maybe, if you can, come on a show by yourselves to maybe help us people out there.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do a whole show just with Josiah, maybe Josiah and Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got two questions for you now. What do you think about savings bond from the government? Because I already started, I bought one, I started with $25.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, so we call those T-bills. That's the lingo. And there's, with regards to pure investment, if we're just going to talk math, it's decent. I think they're doing 4.5, 4.8% right now, which is going to beat inflation, at least on paper, depending on if you think inflation is below 4% in actuality. But they're a half decent investment vehicle, very low risk. They're as sure as the U.S. government. So as long as the United States stands, you're going to get your 4.8-ish%, depending on the bond. But you're being paid with tax dollars that are being printed out of thin air in a fiat currency that's backed by nothing of actual substantive value. So I would say, with regards to as a Christian person who works in finance, I'd say there's probably better options where you could deploy your capital in a more meaningful sense into something that actually creates value. But if you're so risk averse that you can't deploy your capital, you would otherwise be bearing your talents. that may be a good option to kind of get your foot in the door and be like, hey, at least I'm doing something. At least I'm putting my money at the bank to earn interest to take the parable of the talents. But there's probably better things out there for you morally and economically.
Okay, my other question is, should we, even if we're in debt, like me, I have credit cards, should you still be tied? Because I heard Todd Free was saying like, oh, you shouldn't tie because you're in debt to the credit card company, so you shouldn't do offerings.
I wrote a whole article about this because that's a big one. I did.
Cool.
So if you want to go at dominionwealthstrategist.com under articles, the tithe, the contentious line item. But essentially, when we're talking about the tithe, and the Jewish guy can back me up, there were three tithes. There's the Levitical tithe, there was the festival tithe, and there was the poor tithe. So you're giving 10% of your storehouse after you actually had your harvest 3 times per year. There's also what you ate out of, so less than up to 23.3%. If we want to talk math. So it was out of what you had in abundance, like what you could have sold in order to do some other economic activity. You would give 10% of that. So if we're going to do 1-to-1, which the theonomist here, the other theonomist should agree, unless the law was specifically abrogated, it remains binding. But if we're going to give 10% to the Levites, the church, or the Levitical tithe, if that one remains binding.
By the way, being a Levite, I totally support that you give 10% to the Levite.
Right. Yeah, to him specifically. But in general, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give from an empty storehouse. So unless you have an abundance, you have something reasonably set aside, what I would consider your discretionary income, that's what we should give 10% if you're bound on 10% from, not your subsistence, right? If you go back ancient Near East and say, hey, Mr. Jewish guy, how much are you paying for your mortgage? He's like, nothing. I own the land. God gave it to me. How much are you paying for utilities? Nothing. The water falls from the sky. I don't have gas and electric, right? So a lot of these sort of operating expenses that we have to deal with now would have been totally foreign in 2 different contexts. To the situation that the tithe was given.
Offering. Sorry, you're saying you should do an offering after like you done paid your bills and stuff like that, or
right? Yeah, 10. I would generally recommend 10% discretionary, mostly because people don't understand what first fruits means, so they give 10% of their gross income or their net.
Discretionary mean?
That'd be the money that you have left over at the end of the month that isn't tied into a bill. Or it's not already spoken for by the time you receive it. It's the money that you could save, you could invest, you could spend, but it's yours to do with what you want. It's not already spoken for. That, and maybe if you want to put your grocery budget in there too, to make it part of your storehouse. So whatever your grocery budget is, plus your discretionary income, I might give 10% of that. If you want to be super strict in that regard. But the New Testament doesn't give us a 10% reiteration. It just says to give abundantly, and the worker deserves his wages. So you're not going to build the kingdom of God by being stingy, but you also should not give so heavily to the church that you end up needing financial assistance from the church.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we think about that in a more long-term way, if you're causing harm to your own family by being overly generous to the church, you're going to make your kids grow up hating the church because they're going to think that dad loves the church more than he loves us.
Right. So ordo mortis, you want to do that concentrically. You take care of yourself, you take care of your family, you take care of your business, then you take care of your church and the community.
Do you, other than the articles, do you have like a podcast or anything of your own?
There's at least 164 podcasts out there. So I didn't figure there needed to be another Reformed podcast, especially because there's another theonomist in economics who has his own podcast. So if you're wanting to listen to someone like me, who's a little bit more theory-centric as opposed to pure application, go listen to Theono Money.
Theono
Money.
Here, I'll put it up so you can see the spelling there, right there. It's THEONO money.
Theonomy and money, kind of made into a pun, is what it is. Yeah. On the note you were talking about, I want to give a negative example of this. It's been a long time, but so I don't remember the name or even what century, but there was this woman, I want to say it was in the first millennium of church history, because this, I think, was when Jerusalem was still under Christian controls before the Muslims took it over.
It was full.
And she basically was so dedicated to giving to the poor, she would take high interest loans just to give to the poor, and ended up, when she died, instead of passing on an inheritance to her children, passed on her high interest debt from being so dedicated to giving to the poor, she took on foolish loans to do so, and that would have actually been wrong of her to do.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this real quick to add on Melissa's.
Hold on, before you do, let me just thank you, Melissa, for coming on in.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Melissa. So what would you say to the preacher who is talking about sacrificial giving? What is that? Is that also out of surplus?
Yeah, depends. Because there's definitely a error you can fall into. I have another article specifically just reprimanding David Platt, essentially, with the radical. All right, turn your house upside down. If you're living at all opulently in any way, shape, or form, at least on a global stage, you need to go move into a shack so that you can give more money to missions, but it's going to pass through David Platt's house first. Right. So,
yeah,
right.
There's always a caveat.
That's how it worked, right? And you're going to give to a denomination you're not a part of, essentially. No, so there is definitely a time and a place for sacrificial giving. The widow's mites, in particular, where she gave out of her entire subsistence, as far as we could tell. She gave everything that she had, and God said, in Christ, look at this woman. She gave more than those who are giving out of their abundance because she gave out of what she had to live on. All right, so definitely a time and a place for that, but I think that's the exception, not the normative rule.
Gotcha.
Where there is a time, like if the church requires it, if you want to be there, you want there to be a church for you to support later. So you want to make sure that you're at least giving up to their subsistence. But a church is a place where money goes to be spent, not where it goes to be stewarded and grown. The money is grown in the pocketbooks of the congregant, so it needs to stay there, I think, as often as possible and be grown as aggressively as possible if we're looking for long-term future growth of the church.
Good answer.
So let me, switch gears here for a moment. I wanted to put this up. We're talking about Joel Osteen, and civically minded earlier. I'm the Joel Osteen of Reform Podcast Tournament brackets, just being less successful. I will say this: someone is going to win for a year of free podcast editing from Parker Brown.
I think it's a month, but
it's a month. Okay, a month. And I really want that, but and you guys got to see I got Trump to do a promo for me. But to be honest, I actually think who should win it, and I meant to pull this up, but it is civically minded. So let me bring him in right here.
There he is, real men of doctrine.
Hey guys,
I got to admit, Corey, your set of videos you did had to have been, as far as what I've seen so far, the absolute funniest, hysterical, creative ones. And so Josiah's got a pipe there. And the reason is Corey has a bunch of videos where he's promoting his podcast. He's got a pipe. I'm just going to say, go follow Corey on X. And so you can find the video where he puts them all together with where he lost. And I'll let you describe first off, describe your podcast so people know it's not, how to find it, because it's not spelled properly. No. But tell people about your podcast, how to find your podcast, and then talk about the ads you did, because even though I really wanted to see you get to the second round, third round, fourth round, just to see what you were going to do next. But your videos were the funniest that I've seen so far.
Thank you for the kind words. My name's Corey Wing. I'm the host of Civically Minded. You can see it there at the bottom of the screen. Civically Minded is the name of my podcast. My tagline is practical theology for everyday life. That's kind of my passion. I'm a ruling elder under care in the PCA. So that means I'm headed towards licensure and ordination. I'm on pastoral staff of my church now, which means that most of our people would call me the associate pastor. But in PCA polity, it's like a crime if I say I'm the associate pastor. So I'm so I did, and the other PCA guy laughs riotlessly.
Yes, Presbyterian laughed over here. I get it.
It's just one of those nuances. In a Baptist church, I would have been ordained at like 19.
Amen.
Hey, as long as you're baptized, brother, come on in.
In a Baptist church, in a Southern Baptist church, you would have been baptized at 5 instead of as an infant. So
right.
That's true. And so
the Methodists
at a fundamentalist church, you've been preaching at 5.
So that's what I do. I do a lot of practical.
I did preach my first sermon at 12 years old. but that was a Jewish thing.
It's true.
Touche, sir. Touche. You had a forebearer that did that too. I want to say, pretty famous one. But yeah, so I do a lot of practical theology. I live on a 15-acre farm in North Carolina, so some of my videos are honestly me out in the tack room of our barn or out with my animals or something, and a verse will strike, and it'll just be kind of how do I relate it to just normal life. And I also do a lot of political engagement. That's something I'm pretty passionate about. And I know most of the guys that are on this call. So, and I want to say thank you to all of the sponsors and certainly Greg for hosting it. I knew I was going to get trounced in round one, so I tried to put my best foot forward and make something of it and just make something that was fun and silly. And Squirrely Joe probably got the biggest shout out from me of any of the sponsors because the Bud Light knockoff commercial ended up being a Squirrely Joe's knockoff commercial. So.
We'll take it.
When you did the Real Men of Doctrine, and it was a play on the Real Men of Genius, there was two parts where I almost choked on my own spit when I laughed because it was so spot on, dude. When you said I can't remember the exact verses, but it's like, is your favorite verse John 3:16 or Philippians 4:13? You're like, no, Romans 9:13. Jacob I loved and Esau I hated. And I was like, that's like every Calvinist, like we just go to that verse for some reason, right? And it's like, no, that's my life first. Jacob I have loved and Esau I've hated. Oh man, that's so good.
Those videos were classic. And then when you lost, and so you went up against you're on a network with Eschatology Matters. So you actually went up against your own network.
I won and lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a thing again. It was friendly. It was a good friendly competition, jabbing at each other. I will say when I saw the video where, so I had seen the videos as they came out, and then you did the one where you put them together, and I hadn't seen the one that when you lost. And so he's got for people that are in I wish I had pulled it up, but I meant to. But you're in a 3-piece suit, a tie, looking all professional, and you're like, with a pipe and glasses. He's like, well, you could tell I'm scholarly because I got glasses, and like all these different things. And then when you lost, your jacket goes off, your tie is all messed up, you got makeup on, so you got a black eye and blood coming out of your mouth, and you're like, I'm an Irishman, and my mother taught me that if you get into a fight, that the other guy knows he was in a fight. It was hysterical. And so as much as I would want to win the most creative, I can't. Yours in my mind is the most creative so far.
But thank you, Andrew.
I saw that video and I go, man, this guy's got a makeup department over here. I'm really slacking in the podcast space.
That was again, thankfully to my wife who provided the makeup, and then a couple of YouTube videos and some trial and error. So
Well, I got a little worried. I saw a Presbyterian wearing makeup. I was like, wait, I didn't know he goes to the PC USA.
So as we come to the end of the show, I just want to I'll mention a couple things real quick. First off, I am glad to see that as of right now, your Calvinist podcast is 50.8%. Thank you, but do not stop. Everybody go to x.com /RealDMW podcast. Right at the top is the brackets. So you click on that first one. Go vote for your Calvinist. I'd say go vote for Matthew as well, because we want to vote for the underdogs in this one, but definitely vote for your Calvinist, because he beat me like horribly, like demolished me, like embarrassed me. So go make sure he wins, so I feel better that I got so embarrassed. But no, I do want to see Keith Foskey win this thing. So please go out there, share it with folks, tell everyone to vote for your Calvinist. So some comments that came in as we went through. Someone was talking about the fact that we put a title. We put a title, and we never know how conversations are going to go here because it's a live stream. We try to answer questions, but Humble Clay said, Andrew, here we talk about a lot of things, and if you're a regular at Apologetics Live, that's true. We do whatever comes up. I love Melissa's comment. I'm just gonna, for the record, Tom Shepard, he's the one that started this. So I'm going to put it up because he wanted this up here. But Melissa says Tom got beat by girl. Greg, we so have to get someone in Texas to go up to Tom as he's doing open air and be like, "You lost the podcast bracket by a bunch of girls."
Yeah.
Gotta have that.
Hire an actor.
Feminism is a disease.
Yeah,
It's taking over.
Humble Clay says Apologetics Live has better guests and viewers than Saturday Night Live, but that's actually not saying very much.
Well, we're more entertaining, that's for sure.
Yeah. So Josiah, Trey is asking the question: How can we find your company to talk to you about what you do?
Thanks for the plug, Trey. He's one of my agents, so that's sneaky.
You don't say that on the live stream. Keep that's the inside part. Keep that to yourself, Josiah.
Well, I got to be honest. So, if you do want to find Dominion Wealth Strategists, you can go to www.reformed.money. So easy handle, reformed.money. You'll pop up there. We do free consultations. We do an introductory overview to tell you a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and how we operate first, because we do a lot, and it's really hard to fit that all into one soundbite. So hour-long meeting first, data collection, then a full consultation for you. But we're happy to take care of you, right? We do that for free. And then if you need anything that we do charge you for, we make sure you can afford it first.
All right. And so this next comment is really toward Greg, I think, even though Greg wasn't in at the time. But Melissa said, it actually is amazing that your sponsors get supported. So, Greg has put together some amazing sponsors, and so do check them all out.
Can I ask Joe a question really quick, and he can answer it for everyone, because I have been thinking about this for about a year. Why is Squirrely Joe spelled with 2 R's and 2 L's? And you've probably already answered it a million times.
He's squirrely.
Yeah, squirrel is hard to spell. That's why.
So squirrely is not a very common word, and there's multiple ways to spell it. And I just liked the way the double R, double L looked. That's it. Simple.
I like it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can
That's
people
making
find your coffee
Dominion
at?
right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So,
you can go to squirrelyjoes.com, and we've got a.
Whoa. No. They should go to.
You got to use your link. Yeah, let's use your link.
Slash coffee. Right. Yeah, I mean, because they got to know that I said that.
The Jewish guy's like, "Hey, what you doing here? I got to get my piece."
Where's my cut? Come on.
And use the code SFE. I still don't know. I think you changed it. I don't know. Do we get a free bag of coffee on the first order or 20% off? I don't.
So if they go to your link, they're going to get that free bag coupon code.
Okay.
So that's the way to go.
Andrew Rappaport wants to know if he's going to get a free bag of coffee. That's what he wants to know.
No. When my first order, I used the code and I got 20% off. And being Jewish, I ordered like a bag, every bag. What I should have done is order the 5-pound bag of each of them to really save the money.
So see, what I do is I order for my friends and then I send them the kind that I think they need. So Tom, he would get compassion. He needs a little bit of that in his life. Obviously with Andrew, I would send him wisdom. I mean, let's go.
I thought you were going to send me kindness, but you don't have it there. You don't have any kindness.
I had to drink it all. That's the one I need is kindness.
So Melissa says future show topic: Andrew and Tom discuss eschatology.
Ooh,
that we could do that. That'll be fun. Melissa also said this one, last one that we have starred, but Melissa says make the Jewish guy great again.
Hey, that's what we're all trying to do. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Again,
that's right.
the Jewish guy wasn't great to start, so he can't be great again. It's just make the Jewish guy great.
There's already true Israel. There's already one that's true Israel.
Yeah. So here we go. Melissa says Squirrely Joe's should sell an IV drip bag of coffee. I love that idea. Joe, start working on that one.
All right.
If you need that much caffeine, just do nicotine like an adult.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say what I need Joe and you guys to get together and make me a nice coffee flavored Squirrely Joe nicotine pouch.
Yeah, we do have a 20 milligram coffee flavored nicotine pouch coming out. So
there you go.
Keep an eye out for that.
Is it going to be a Squirrely Joe's flavored one? So you can have all the different kindness and the,
Yeah, I think getting it into the pouch, it kind of loses the distinctiveness of the blend.
Yeah, you probably don't want to use specialty coffee for that.
Yeah.
You ought to do a Squirrely Joe's cigar wrapper. and go to 60
Yeah.
cigars.
There you go.
That would sell.
Yeah.
This little coffee.
Just so everyone knows too, nicotine, now not in 20 milligrams, that's way too much, but nicotine is very good for arthritis, for bone joint pain. And you can get those in nightshade vegetables. Eggplant is the number 2 vegetable with nicotine. And then tomatoes is number 3. And it's funny because if you go to the doctor for joint pain, they'll tell you not to eat nightshade vegetables, which that's what you should be eating to get that nicotine in, or put in a pouch, I guess.
Yeah. And if your joints are stiff, just don't roll them so tight.
And Trey says, your buddy Trey there says that I should be doing a cold plunge in a cold brew.
Absorb through osmosis.
Yeah,
just don't drink it while you're sitting in it.
I was just gonna say, if I did that in the morning, I'd drink half of it to wake up and go, what have I done?
So I want to thank all you guys for coming in. I think we had a lot of fun, even though it's supposed to be this big competitive thing. No, we don't have to. We can actually be competitive and have fun with one another, and even hope that someone else would do better than us, because, quite frankly, I knew I was going to lose to Keith, but I wanted to make it some fun, and I'm rooting for him. So here again, you heard the different sponsors that are sponsoring this Dead Man Walking brackets. Go and sponsor them. There's others who are there as well. Check them out. Make sure to support those that are supporting what Greg is trying to do with the podcast brackets. Go and vote. Please keep voting. We got to vote for Your Calvinist Podcast. He's got to get to the next round, and then you have to make him be the winner. Though we're all rooting for that. And if you're not rooting for that, repent and start rooting for that. No. But I do want to encourage everybody, go share, go to Real DMW Podcast on X. Go share the links for and encourage people to vote for Your Calvinist Podcast. So I really want to see him win by like 60%. He needs those bragging rights. Yeah.
I will say we have moved Keith a full percent since I've been on. So he's at 50.9.
Yeah,
he was at 49.9, and then he bumped up a little to 50.1. But so he's almost at 51%, but it's still very, very close.
What about Kings Hall and Matthew Everhard? We're showing
Matthew, it's 50-50. I mean, it's somewhere. I mean, it's saying that 50-50, but it's an odd number of votes, so that one of them is up by 1 probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's see. Man, that is close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm showing Kings Hall at 50.1.
Okay. So
that is within like 5 votes out of 36, 35.
And when we started, Kings Hall was leading by 2%. So
by 3%.
3%. So thanks everyone for doing that. Go vote for Your Calvinist. Go vote for Matthew Everhart. Make sure that those two get it to. I'll give you the incentive. Both of them have agreed that they are going to do a debate if they both get into the final round. So let's have that. What's the debate on? Was it baptism?
Yeah, I think the mode of baptism, since the other debate is pretty tired.
Yeah, so let's get that. Let's get that debate. I did see earlier that Matthew Earhart, Keith Foskey, and there was someone else that someone said is live streaming now during this. So that explains why Keith is not in here. But do that. Go and support Dead Man Walking Podcast if you're not listening to that one. Also, Theano Money, also Open Air Theology. Go follow those podcasts.
Civically minded.
And civically minded. Yeah.
And civically minded. Open Air Theology is not a podcast in your app yet. It will be, but it is a YouTube channel for now. So go to that YouTube channel, and Civically Minded, be checking that out. And I will, if you will hear a lot more from Civically Minded if you follow the Rap Report podcast, my other podcast I do, because he will be coming on shortly. And so we're going to be doing a podcast together, which I'm looking forward to. So, Humble Clay had said it was Redeem Zoomer is the other person. Keith Everhart and Zoomer were doing a live stream. So I'll have to go check that out. Guys, thanks for coming in. Thanks for what you guys are doing for the kingdom of God. I really appreciate it. May people have seen that we're not in competition with one another. We can work together. There's a strange concept. Work together for the glory of God, even where we disagree. in our theological positions. A crazy idea. The atheists understand this concept. Why don't the Christians? So with that, I'm just going to say next week, I should mention next week, we're going to talk about New Age. I have Mersha Montenegro. I can't pronounce the last name.
Montenegro.
Thank you. And so we're going to talk about some things. I do cold plunging. We also, what often happens with cold plunging is there's lots of talk about breathing, breath, and some of that is tied to New Age stuff. So we're going to get into that discussion next week. And until then, remember to strive to make today an eternal day for the glory of God. And we'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye, guys.